Racing Legends, the High-Octane Fight for Neo City's Future Part 4. Ace executed the turn flawlessly, his GTR handling the maneuver with precision. Riley and the others followed suit, their cars moving in perfect synchronization. But Victor's men were relentless, their black SUVs closing in on the convoy. "We need to split up," Ace said, his mind racing. "Jax, Marcus, take the lead and draw them away. Riley and I will take the treasure to the warehouse." Jax and Marcus nodded, their cars speeding ahead to create a diversion. The black SUVs followed, their engines roaring as they pursued the decoy. Ace and Riley took a different route, their cars moving swiftly through the darkened streets. "We're almost there," Riley said, her voice filled with determination. "Just a little further." They reached the warehouse, the old building looming in the darkness. Ace and Riley quickly unloaded the treasure, moving it to the secure basement. The air was thick with tension as they worked, their movements swift and precise. "Got it," Ace said, securing the last of the treasure. "Let's get out of here." As they prepared to leave, the sound of engines echoed outside the warehouse. Victor's men had found them. "We've got company," Riley said, her eyes narrowing. Ace's mind raced. They needed to get out of there, but they couldn't leave the treasure unprotected. "We'll have to fight our way out," he said, his voice steady. "Stay close." They moved through the warehouse, their weapons drawn. The sound of footsteps echoed through the building as Victor's men closed in. Ace and Riley fought with relentless determination, their movements a blur of speed and precision. "Over here!" Ace shouted, leading Riley towards an exit. They burst through the door, sprinting towards their cars. The night air was filled with the roar of engines as they sped away, bullets whizzing past them. "We did it," Riley panted, her eyes filled with relief. But Victor's not going to give up. Ace nodded, his expression grim. "We need to stay one step ahead. Let's regroup and figure out our next move." Back at the garage, the crew regrouped. They had managed to secure the treasure, but the threat was far from over. Victor's syndicate was still out there, and they knew they needed to be ready for whatever came next. "We need to find out what Victor's planning," Mia said, her fingers flying over her laptop. "He's not going to stop until he gets what he wants." Ace nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "We'll stop him. Whatever it takes." As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, the crew knew they were in for the fight of their lives. But they were ready. They would stop Victor, protect the treasure, and defend Neo City no matter the cost. The crew had barely had time to catch their breath when the next crisis hit. Victor's men were relentless, and it was clear that the battle for Neo City was far from over. Ace knew they needed to take the fight to Victor and end this once and for all. The garage was a hive of activity as the crew prepared for the showdown. Ace stood at the center, his eyes scanning the faces of his team. "We've got one shot at this," he said, his voice steady. "We need to hit Victor where it hurts and take him down for good." Riley stepped forward, her expression determined. "What's the plan?" Mia pulled up a map of the city on her laptop. "I've tracked Victor's movements. He's holed up in an old factory on the outskirts of the city. It's heavily guarded, but if we can get in and take him out, we can end this." Jax cracked his knuckles, a grin spreading across his face. "Sounds like a plan. Let's do this." The night was dark and silent as the crew approached the factory. They parked their cars a few blocks away, moving stealthily through the shadows. Lila had hacked into the factory's security system, disabling the cameras and alarms. "You're clear," Lila's voice crackled through their earpieces. "But you've got a small window. Move fast." Ace, Riley, Jax, and Marcus moved swiftly, their movements silent and precise. They reached the factory entrance, where two of Victor's guards stood watch. Marcus took them out with quick, precise strikes, and they slipped inside. The factory was a maze of machinery and crates, dimly lit by flickering overhead lights. They moved cautiously, their senses on high alert. Mia guided them through the maze, her eyes glued to the map. Victor's in the main office, Mia's voice guided them through the earpiece. But be careful. He's got more men inside. Riley's heart pounded as they approached the main office. Stay sharp, she whispered. We don't know what we're going to find. They burst through the door, their weapons drawn. Inside, they found Victor, surrounded by his men. The air was thick with tension as the two sides faced off. Well, Victor sneered, his eyes gleaming with malice. I didn't expect you to come so soon. But it's too late. Neo City is mine. Ace's eyes blazed with fury. Not if we have anything to say about it. A fierce battle erupted as Victor's men swarmed the room. Ace and Riley fought with relentless determination, their movements a blur of speed and precision. Jax and Marcus provided cover, their powerful strikes taking down enemies with ease. Amid the chaos, Ace and Victor faced off, their eyes locked in a deadly stare. This ends now, Ace growled, his voice filled with resolve. Victor smirked, raising his weapon. You're right. It does. The fight erupted with a flurry of punches and kicks, each man pushing the other to their limits. Ace's movements were swift and precise, honed by years of racing and fighting. Victor was relentless, his strikes powerful and calculated. As the battle raged on, Ace and Victor's fight grew more intense. Ace landed a powerful punch, sending Victor staggering back. But Victor recovered quickly, his eyes blazing with fury. You think you can stop me? Victor sneered, lunging at Ace with renewed ferocity. Ace dodged the attack, his mind racing. He knew he needed to end this quickly. With a burst of speed, he tackled Victor, sending them both crashing to the ground. They grappled for control, their movements desperate and fierce. Just as Ace gained the upper hand, a shot rang out, echoing through the factory. Ace froze, his heart pounding. He turned to see one of Victor's men aiming a gun at him, a sinister smile on his face. Drop him, or you're dead, the thug growled. Ace's mind raced, searching for a way out. But before he could react, a shot rang out, and the thug fell to the ground, clutching his shoulder. Riley stood behind him, her gun smoking. Nice shot, Ace panted, his eyes filled with gratitude. Riley nodded, her expression fierce. Let's finish this. With renewed determination, Ace turned back to Victor, who was struggling to his feet. It's over, Victor, Ace said, his voice steady. You're done. Victor's eyes blazed with fury. This isn't over, he spat. I'll be back. Before Ace could respond, Victor lunged at him, but Ace was ready. With a swift move, he disarmed Victor and pinned him to the ground. You're not going anywhere, Ace growled. As the rest of Victor's men were subdued, the crew regrouped. The battle was over, but the victory was bittersweet. They had stopped Victor, but the cost had been high. Back at the garage, the crew tended to their wounds and regrouped. Ace's mind was racing with the events of the night. They had taken down Victor, but the threat was far from over. We need to stay vigilant, Mia said, her voice filled with determination. Victor's syndicate is still out there, and they won't give up easily. Ace nodded, his eyes filled with resolve. We'll be ready. Whatever it takes, we'll protect our city. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, the crew knew they were in for the fight of their lives. But they were ready. They would stop Victor, protect the treasure, and defend Neo City no matter the cost. The battle at the factory had left the crew battered but victorious. Victor was in custody, and his syndicate was in disarray. But the fight had taken its toll, and the crew knew they needed to regroup and recover. Back at the garage, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Ace stood at the center, his eyes scanning the faces of his team. "We did it," he said, his voice steady. "We took down Victor. But we can't let our guard down. His syndicate is still out there, and they won't give up easily." Riley nodded, her expression determined. "We need to stay vigilant. But for now, let's take a moment to catch our breath." The crew spent the next few days recovering and repairing their cars. The garage was filled with the hum of activity as they worked, their spirits lifted by their victory. But the threat of Victor's syndicate still loomed, and they knew they needed to be ready for whatever came next. One evening, as the crew gathered around a table in the garage, Mia pulled up a map of the city on her laptop. "I've been tracking Victor's movements," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Even though he's in custody, his men are still active. We need to find out what they're planning." Ace leaned over her shoulder, studying the map. "Any leads?" Mia nodded. "There's been a lot of activity around an old warehouse in the industrial district. It's heavily guarded, and it looks like they're planning something big." Riley's eyes narrowed. "We need to check it out. But we can't go in blind." Jax cracked his knuckles, a grin spreading across his face. "Sounds like it's time for some recon." The next night, the crew set out to investigate the warehouse. They parked their cars a few blocks away, moving stealthily through the shadows. Lila had hacked into the warehouse's security system, disabling the cameras and alarms. "You're clear," Lila's voice crackled through their earpieces. "But be careful. There's a lot of activity inside." Ace, Riley, Jax, and Marcus moved swiftly, their movements silent and precise. They reached the warehouse entrance, where two of Victor's guards stood watch. Marcus took them out with quick, precise strikes, and they slipped inside. The warehouse was a maze of machinery and crates, dimly lit by flickering overhead lights. They moved cautiously, their senses on high alert. Mia guided them through the maze, her eyes glued to the map. "There's a meeting room up ahead," Mia's voice guided them through the earpiece. "That's where they're planning their next move." Riley's heart pounded as they approached the meeting room. "Stay sharp," she whispered. "We don't know what we're going to find." They burst through the door, their weapons drawn. Inside, they found a group of Victor's men gathered around a table, discussing their plans. The air was thick with tension as the two sides faced off. Well, one of the men sneered, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Looks like we've got company." Ace's eyes blazed with fury. "You're not getting away with this." A fierce battle erupted as Victor's men swarmed the room. Ace and Riley fought with relentless determination. Their movements a blur of speed and precision. Jax and Marcus provided cover, their powerful strikes taking down enemies with ease. Amid the chaos, Ace and Riley managed to grab a set of blueprints from the table. "We've got what we need," Ace shouted. "Let's get out of here." They fought their way through the warehouse, the sound of gunfire and shouts echoing around them. Just as they reached the exit, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking their path. It was Jake. "Jake?" Ace's voice was filled with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" Jake's expression was cold. "I'm sorry, Ace. But Victor made me an offer I couldn't refuse. You should have stayed out of this."